Picture this. It's 1874. You're born into literal royalty. Your granddad's a duke. Your dad's the hottest politician in England. You've got castles, servants, the full Downton Abbey package.
And you're still going to screw it up completely.
Exactly. Winston Spencer Churchill had every advantage a human being could have. And for 30 years, he turned it all into a spectacular disaster.
Okay, but Mike, we need context here. His dad, Lord Randolph Churchill, was this rock star politician, right? Like genuinely charismatic, witty, fast rising.
And thought Winston was an absolute idiot.
That's harsh.
I'm not exaggerating. There's a letter where Randolph tells teenage Winston, quote, "You will become a social wastrel and disgrace the family name."
From his own father.
From his own father, the guy Winston worshipped. So Winston's growing up in this nightmare where he's got all this privilege but zero actual support or belief from the one person whose opinion matters.
That's a successor problem right there.
Ooh, I like that. Explain.
The successor problem is a pattern we see throughout history. You've got a powerful, successful patriarch,
Randolph,
and a son who's in his shadow, desperately trying to prove himself, but never measuring up because the standards are impossible.
And it usually ends badly. The son either rebels completely or breaks under the pressure.
But Winston does neither, which is fascinating.
Well, first he fails at everything. School, disaster. Winston's at Harrow, fancy boarding school, and he's bombing every subject. Latin, Greek, mathematics, all of it.
But he wasn't stupid.
Not even close. He was dyslexic, probably ADHD, and the Victorian education system had exactly zero accommodations for that. So they just labelled him dumb and beat him.
Literally beat him.
Oh yeah, this is 1880s England. If you didn't memorise your Latin declensions, you got caned. And Winston refused to memorise things he thought were useless, so he got caned a lot.
That's actually kind of punk rock.
Winston Churchill, Victorian punk. I love it.
But it gets him nowhere, right? His father thinks he's a moron. He's failing school. What's his move?
So there's this incredible moment. Winston's at home during school break and he's got this massive collection of toy soldiers, like 1,500 of them. And he's staging elaborate battles, moving regiments around, totally absorbed.
Every boy's dream, honestly.
Randolph walks in, sees this whole setup and asks, "Do you want to go into the army then?"
That's it. That's the career counselling.
That's it. And Winston, desperate for literally any crumb of approval from his dad, says yes, even though he has zero interest in the military at that point.
So he's making life-altering decisions based on a 5-second conversation about toy soldiers.
Welcome to aristocratic parenting in the 1880s.
Okay, but does he get into the army?
Eventually, after failing the entrance exam to Sandhurst, the military academy twice.
Twice?
Twice. His father has to pull strings to get him in on the third try. And even then, Winston only gets into the cavalry because the infantry requirements were too high.
The cavalry's the dumb rich kid's option, yeah?
100%. It's where you send your failed son when he can't hack real military service. More polo, less actual fighting.
And Winston knows this. He knows everyone thinks it's a joke.
He knows, and it eats at him. Because here's the thing about Winston. He's got this unshakable confidence that he's destined for greatness. But he's also brutally self-aware about how far he is from it.
That's actually relatable. How many people today are grinding away, convinced they're meant for something big, while also fully aware they're currently failing?
Every content creator in LA.
Every screenwriter sending out emails their mom helped them write.
Low blow, Mark.
I'm just saying, the successor problem is alive and well. Winston's stuck in 1895 thinking, my dad doesn't believe in me, I'm broke, I'm going nowhere. That's literally every millennial with a podcast.
Okay, but here's where Winston's different. He's got a secret weapon.
His mom?
Jenny Jerome Churchill, American, gorgeous, scandalous, brilliant. She's off having affairs with half of London, but when Winston needs something, she delivers.
Connections.
Mountains of connections. Jenny knows everyone, politicians, newspaper editors, generals, and she's willing to pull every string she's got for Winston.
So Winston's gaming the system through nepotism.
Absolutely, and this is important, he knows it. He knows he's not earning anything on merit yet, and that drives him insane.
Because his whole identity is wrapped up in proving he's great.
Exactly. So at 21, Winston's this perfect storm of privilege and desperation. He's in India with his cavalry regiment. He's broke, he's bored, and he's got this massive chip on his shoulder.
And that's where things start to change.
That's where Winston discovers he can write. Okay, so Winston's in India, 1896. He's 21 years old. His regiment's stationed in Bangalore, and he is losing his mind with boredom.
Because there's no war?
Correct. Winston joined the army for glory and combat. Instead, he's playing polo and sweating through his uniform in 100-degree heat.
But this is where he starts reading, right?
Yeah. And this is genuinely beautiful. Winston realizes he's an idiot.
His own assessment.
His own words, and decides to fix it. He writes to his mum asking her to send him books. Philosophy, history, economics, all of it.
What's he reading?
Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, all 6 volumes. Plato's Republic, Macaulay's History of England. He's basically giving himself the classical education he refused at Harrow.
And it sticks this time because he actually wants it.
Exactly. When you're forced to read Plato at 14, it's torture. When you choose it at 21 because you're intellectually starving, different story.
Classic self-improvement arc. I'm going to read my way to greatness.
But here's the genius move. Winston's not just reading to be smart, he's reading to write, because he figures out that writing is how you make money and get famous when you're a broke second son.
And he's terrible at first, right?
So bad. His early stuff is Victorian purple prose cranked to 11, overwrought, melodramatic, exhausting.
Give me an example.
Okay, he's describing a sunset in India and writes, "The orb of day descended in splendour beneath the horizon, bathing the firmament in hues of crimson and gold."
Oh my God.
Right? But he practices and he's shameless about it. There's this small rebellion on the northwest frontier, modern day Pakistan, and Winston's unit isn't involved, but Winston pulls strings through his mum, gets himself attached to the expedition and turns it into his personal content platform.
Wait, he's war blogging?
He is literally war blogging. He writes dispatches for the Daily Telegraph, painting himself as this brave young officer facing down Pashtun tribal warriors. And people eat it up.
Is he actually brave or is this all spin?
Oh, he's brave. Genuinely. Recklessly brave. There's a battle at Malakand where Winston's charging around on horseback while bullets are flying everywhere. He later writes about it like it's the most thrilling experience of his life.
That's insane. He's treating combat like extreme sports.
Because for Winston, it kind of is. Every battle is content. Every close call is a dramatic scene he can sell to a newspaper.
That is deeply cynical and also completely brilliant.
It works. His dispatches get published. He turns them into a book called The Story of the Malakand Field Force. And suddenly Winston Churchill is a name people recognise.
But his commanding officers hate him.
They despise him because Winston's not a team player. He's using the army as a stepping stone to fame and everyone knows it.
So where does he go next? Because he can't milk India forever.
Sudan, 1898. There's a war brewing and Winston, again, through his mum's connections, gets himself attached to the 21st Lancers.
The Battle of Omdurman.
The Battle of Omdurman, September 2nd, 1898. One of the last great cavalry charges in British history.
And one of the most brutal slaughters.
Absolutely. The British have Maxim guns. The Sudanese have spears and outdated rifles. It's a massacre. 25,000 Sudanese dead, 400 British casualties.
And Winston's in the charge.
Right in the thick of it, sabre drawn, galloping into a mass of dervish warriors. He later describes it as the most exciting 2 minutes of his life.
Mike, we should probably note that Winston's view of this battle is problematic.
Oh, incredibly problematic. He writes about it like it's a glorious adventure. He barely acknowledges the human cost on the Sudanese side.
That's the empire mindset in full effect.
100%. Winston's a product of his time, and that time was deeply, unapologetically imperialist. He sees this as Britain bringing civilization to the savage world.
Which is horrifying.
But it's also important context for understanding Winston. He's got this dual nature, brilliant and compassionate in some ways, shockingly callous and racist in others.
We're going to come back to that tension later in his career.
For sure. But in 1898, Winston's just thrilled to have more material. He writes another book, The River War, and it's a huge success. He's 23 years old and he's a best-selling author and war correspondent.
That's a ridiculous resume for 23.
Completely ridiculous. But Winston's not done because now he's got money and fame and he knows exactly what he wants to do with it.
Politics,
the family business. So Winston runs for Parliament in 1899. He's 24 years old, standing in Oldham industrial town in Lancashire.
And he loses.
Gets destroyed. And he is furious.
Of course he is.
But then, perfect timing, the Boer War breaks out in South Africa. Winston sees an opportunity and gets hired by the Morning Post as a war correspondent for massive money.
How much?
£250 a month. That's like £40,000 a year in today's money. At age 24.
That's genuinely absurd.
It gets better. Winston's on a train in South Africa that gets ambushed by Boer commandos. The train derails. People are getting shot. Total chaos.
And Winston
organises a defence, helps load wounded soldiers onto the engine car, gets them to safety. Genuinely heroic.
Okay, credit where it's due.
But then he gets captured. He's taken prisoner by the Boers.
And POW camps in 1899 aren't exactly comfortable.
They're awful. But Winston escapes.
What?
He escapes, jumps a fence, walks 300 miles through hostile territory, hides in a coal mine, and makes it to safety in Portuguese East Africa.
Mike, that's a Hollywood movie plot.
I know. And Winston immediately writes about it, gives lecture tours, milks it for everything it's worth. He becomes a national hero at 25 years old.
So the guy who failed at school, barely got into the army, and lost his first election is now a celebrity?
At age 25, best-selling author, war hero, household name.
That's the most ridiculous career trajectory I've ever heard.
And he's not done. He runs for Parliament again in 1900, same district, Oldham, and wins in a landslide.
War hero Churchill is unstoppable.
For about 2 seconds. Then he immediately starts making enemies.
How?
He's elected as a Conservative, his father's party. But Winston starts criticising Conservative policy, specifically tariffs and military spending.
What's wrong with that? MPs criticise policy all the time.
Sure, but Winston's doing it publicly and loudly. He's giving speeches against his own party, and instead of backing down when people get mad, he doubles down.
Classic Winston move.
In 1904, he switches parties entirely, leaves the Conservatives, joins the Liberals.
That's political suicide.
You'd think. The Conservatives call him a traitor, a rat, an opportunist. They never forgive him. We're talking decades of pure hatred.
Is he an opportunist?
Oh, absolutely. But he's also genuinely committed to his principles. He believes in free trade. He thinks military spending is excessive. He thinks the Conservatives are wrong, so he switches.
But Mike, we need to talk about what this looks like to people at the time. This is the turncoat pattern.
Explain.
The turncoat pattern is when someone switches sides, political parties, alliances, whatever, and gets absolutely destroyed for it, even if they're right.
Because people hate perceived disloyalty more than they care about policy.
Exactly. Winston can argue all day that he switched for principled reasons, but to the Conservatives, he's Benedict Arnold.
And that follows him for the rest of his career.
But the Liberals take him in?
Cautiously. They're suspicious because they know he's ambitious, but he's also talented and famous, so they give him a shot.
And he rises fast.
Crazy fast. By 1908, Winston's in the cabinet as president of the Board of Trade. He's 33 years old.
What does he do with that power?
Social reform, pensions for the elderly, labour protections, unemployment insurance. Winston helps pass some of the most progressive legislation in British history.
Wait, this is the same guy who was born into aristocracy and spent his 20s chasing military glory?
I know, it doesn't fit the image, but Winston's complicated. He genuinely cares about improving working class lives, or at least he cares about being seen as someone who does.
You're so cynical.
I'm realistic. With Winston, there's always both genuine principle and shameless ambition. You can't separate them.
Fair, but things don't stay smooth, right?
Oh no, because in 1911, Winston becomes First Lord of the Admiralty. He's in charge of the entire Royal Navy.
And then World War I happens.
And then Winston makes the biggest mistake of his career.
Dear God, what is it?
So Mark, let's set the scene 1915 Gallipoli. Winston Churchill is pushing this wild plan to break the stalemate in World War I by attacking the Dardanelles. He's convinced it'll open up the way to Russia and force Germany onto the back foot.
He really believes it'll end the war early, right? I mean, on paper, it's ambitious, maybe even brilliant. If it works, the Allies relieve pressure on the Western Front and shake up the whole dynamic.
Exactly. That confidence, maybe overconfidence, drives Winston to push the plan through, even when others are raising concerns.
Yeah, and the thing is, it sounds like a game changer, but you're making it sound like there's a but coming.
Oh, there's a big but. Once the plan is set in motion, it quickly unravels. The naval attack gets shredded by Turkish defences, and when they try landing troops, it turns into a slog, a bloody stalemate.
So when it all goes wrong, Churchill's the one who gets blamed, isn't he? Even though other people were running the show on the ground.
Completely. Winston's the face of the failure. He pushed hardest for the plan, so when it sinks, he goes down with it, demoted, humiliated, basically exiled from power by the end of 1915.
That's brutal. And it's not just a career hit, it's personal. There are stories of Churchill being devastated, drinking too much, just totally lost after Gallipoli.
Yeah, his wife Clementine was seriously worried. He used to call his depression the black dog. During this time, it really had him in its grip.
What's wild is that instead of just disappearing, Churchill actually goes to the Western Front at 41, no less, and leads a battalion in the trenches. I can't decide if that's courageous or reckless.
Honestly, probably both. But it's such a classic Churchill move. He couldn't stand sitting around licking his wounds. He needed to do something, take action, even if it meant risking his life.
He's in the trenches for a few months, right? Then he's pulled back into politics, but things aren't the same. His career is basically dead for 20 years after that.
That's right, the infamous wilderness years. For the next couple of decades, he's on the sidelines, warning about Hitler, pushing for rearmament, and almost nobody's listening.
During those years, he's not just ignored, he's actively unpopular. He's clinging to the empire, getting things wrong about India and the abdication crisis. People think he's a relic.
Totally. On so many issues, Churchill's judgment is questionable. He comes off as stubborn and even out of touch. But when it comes to Hitler, he's the lone voice screaming about the danger while everyone else is in denial.
And then, just when everyone's written him off, World War II breaks out. Suddenly, that crazy old warmonger is exactly who Britain needs.
It's wild. He gets brought back, and by May 1940, at 65 years old, when most people are retiring, he finally becomes Prime Minister.
Talk about a comeback. It's almost like he'd been preparing for this moment his entire life, through every failure.
So here's the big question. What do we actually learn from Churchill's early years? I mean, the guy fails constantly, gets humiliated, and somehow winds up a legend.
I think it's that pattern of persistence. He just refuses to quit, no matter how bleak things get. But it's also this sense of destiny. He believed he was meant for greatness and kept pushing forward.
That sort of unwavering self-belief can look delusional, but for Churchill, it was like rocket fuel. He took every setback and turned it into motivation.
Still, most people who think they're destined for greatness just end up, well, delusional. What set him apart? Timing, luck, talent, all of it. But mostly he never stopped preparing himself for the big moment.
Exactly. When Britain needed someone who'd been through darkness and could lead them out, Churchill was ready. That's what makes his story so compelling.
Honestly, it's kind of inspiring. Churchill's whole early life is a masterclass in resilience. He fails at school, struggles in the military, gets politically exiled, yet he still becomes Churchill.
If there's one takeaway, it's that your early failures don't have to define you. What matters is how you respond, whether you use them as fuel or let them stop you.
That's the secret superpower, failing upward. Not in the privileged, unearned sense, but in genuinely learning and coming back stronger each time.
And that's what separates the Winston Churchills from everyone else, the ability to get knocked down and keep coming back. That's the real lesson here.
All right, Mike, before we get too sentimental, let's wrap it up. Churchill, the comeback king, thanks for joining us on the Mike and Mark History Experience.
If you like this episode, share it around and let us know who you want us to tackle next. Until then, remember, don't let your failures define you unless you want to go viral on TikTok.